Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome. We'll start in just a second. Hopefully you're doing well. Sorry about the screen. I don't know what's going on with my screen today, but I got this sort of like this, I guess this light coming in. I tried cleaning it a few times, but it's not coming off. It must be smudged in some way, shape, or form. So, anyway, we'll start in just a second. Invite. Today we're going to be talking about W.B. Yeats and his story entitled "The Devil." And I'm also going to talk a little bit about sowing as we continue to keep things seasonal. I try to make sure that I don't talk about things that aren't in season and stay with the tides, because I think that that's when we're in tune with the infinite. It's when we're in tune with the infinite that we're in tune with Time Father and Earth Mother, and I think that's pretty important. How's everybody doing? I hope you're doing well. My name is Druid Mantras, founder of the Druid Circle, founder of Druid Order of Blessed Stone and Wood, and founder of Druid University, all to come within the next several years. My apologies for those of you that are wanting to participate in the Druid Order of Blessed Stone and Wood and have not seen the application yet. I am working on that. I'm just a little bit behind on some things, and I'll get that done. Remember, I don't get paid to do this, so it's tough doing this, whatnot. But we'll manage and we'll get through. So I want to start a couple things, and I want to start before I begin with The Devil. This is from Celtic Twilight. It's a collection of books from W.B. Yeats, great nationalist, proud of his country, and as he should be. And just a wonderful a writer, creative. And they call the area in which he, in which apparently the story is written, either Yeatsville, Yeatstown, stuff like that. It's in Sligo, Ireland. But one of the things I want to talk about is this importance of a lot of people saying, well, why do we tell scary stories up until Christmas? And a lot of people just don't understand the importance of scary stories during this time, and why we tell scary stories during this time. Because a lot of us have lost the time in which would have been had we not been smart enough to know what took place and the seasons of the year that continued. This was a very, very dark time for many people, and it could have been incredibly frightening. As a result, the reason why we might have told children scary stories at these times, stories that would scare the living daylights, if you will, out of them, makes sense, because it's Samhain. We're supposed to be talking about darkness. We're supposed to be talking about death, destruction, chaos. And so, as we talk about this, I think it is for this reason that we do discuss why we talk about scary stories during this time. Because what corporations have done was create a world in which, I was just at a store a while back, and I was there, and it was like, they were already getting ready to start packing up the Christmas stuff, and I'm like, whoa! The trees were going, and they were getting ready to start putting out Valentine's Day stuff right now. This is not a joke. This is serious, and I think what's happened is that it throws us off. It throws our microcosm as well as our macrocosm, and it throws it off because we are no longer in tune with the seasons. I think that the real magic is when we are in tune with the seasons, understanding the seasons, cooking with the seasons, cooking seasonally. I tell people, you want to buy a can of blueberries, fine, buy a can of blueberries, but buy them in the summertime, even though they're harvested at the, whatever. I'm a stickler on time and the way time works, and understanding and respecting time and how time works with the earth. I think it's very important. So getting back to that and talking about Samhain, we talk about this idea of fright, this idea of fear, this idea of not knowing, this idea of darkness. And so the opposition, I would say the oppositional, sorry about the sounds in the background, guys. The oppositional theory and emotion would be then to think about the opposite, strength and courage, the first two parts of the word Druid. So this strength and this courage are what give us a chance to get out of this darkness, that we have been given life, okay? We have been given life, we have been given light, and we're to take that light and carry it with us during this dark time, so that we become the jack-o'-lanterns themselves, the pumpkins with the light inside of them themselves, the potatoes with the light inside them themselves, the turnips with the light inside them themselves. And so as we think more about this, we think deeper and deeper into reflection, we begin to pierce into our greatest fears. What is your greatest fear? I think many of us know what our greatest fear is, and I think that it's this time that we must embrace that fear, because when we begin to embrace our fear at the right time of the year, we then begin to hear. We hear the voices of the dark, as we should. And so as a result, this story that I'm about to read you tonight, The Devil, is quite interesting, because the word itself, devil, is of the veil, from the veil. Another way to look at the word devil is the word in Proto-Indo-European, which means weakness, in the word debilitated. You're weak. So, interestingly enough, whatever your concept of devil is, Yeats talks about it in this story that I'm about to read to you. So let's begin. It's only a paragraph, so it shouldn't be that long. Let's begin with The Devil. My old Mayo woman told me one day that something very bad had come down the road and gone into the house opposite. and though she would not say what it was, I knew quite well. Another day she told me of 2 friends of hers who had been made love to by one whom they believed to be the devil. One of them was standing by the roadside when he came on horseback and asked her to mount up behind him and go riding. When she would not, he vanished. The other was out on the road late at night waiting for her young man, when something came flapping and rolling along the road up to her feet. It had the likeness of a newspaper, and presently it flapped up into her face, and she knew by the size of it that it was the Irish Times. All of a sudden, it changed into a young man who asked her to go walking with him. She would not, and he vanished. I know of an old man, too, on the slopes of Wimbledon, who found the devil ringing a bell under his bed. He went off and stole the chapel bell and rang him out from underneath. It may be that this, like the others, was not the devil at all, but some poor wood spirit whose cloven feet had got him into trouble. Now, this story is magnificent, and there's so many, points that we need to talk about. And the main point in this is that is Yeats' relationship with the devil as looking at the devil with some sort of sorrow. I'm sorry that you are in your predicament. And then he goes ahead and he defends what? He defends his, he defends him and says, oh no, wait, hold on. This that we are dealing with is actually something that is just simply a tree spirit with cloven feet. Now, anybody that knows trees knows that the roots of the tree that come down from underneath look like feet, right? And then split off. That's called cloven, right? And so, sort of like hooves, if you will, but then larger ones that split off into larger ones and larger ones. And so, I always wanted to talk about this tonight because I think that it's important to realize that we need to have the courage and the strength to say no. The courage and the strength to understand that our action might not necessarily simply be a refusal, but also an action to do that which is opposite to an unwanted action. When we begin to think like that, then we begin to think about this idea of reacting with an opposite or opposing force. So that in being the light, it isn't just simply being the light that's important. It is doing something with the light. It is doing something in the light, being surrounded by darkness. And when I think about Samhain, I think about this idea of us as candlelight. That we are this candlelight in this dark room. And that's how I see Samhain. even though there's lights around me, there's lights obviously on the altar, there's lights here, but that when I see Samhain, I see it in a way that reflects our candlelight in this darkness, right? And that no matter what, that light burns, that light reflects, that light is seen by the darkness. So that in Samhain, it isn't just simply that we become that sparkler, if you will, but that darkness recognizes us as the candle, and it knows very well who we are as light workers. I wrote on Parlor today, I think I wrote even on this page here, how the word Christian actually predates Christianity. And I talked about this idea that Christian was an adjective reflecting people of the folk of the land, reflecting them as people who have been anointed with light. And that people who have done great deeds, and people who have spoken and performed acts, made the right decisions in darkness, being very well proficient in what is lie, what is deceit. I talked about that people like that would have been called holy, enough, but also Christian. And that the word Christian, as I said, predates Christianity. And that with a small c, if you will, it was an adjective to describe people who are christened. That's where you get the word christened from. It means rubbed with oil or rubbed with balm. It could have been aloe. It could have been anything like that. And what does oil do? And what does oil do? And what does balm do? And what does any sort of salve do? Well, when you see it on a person, it is bright. Did you ever see a person who is bald, who who waxed his head, if you will, or whatever the case is? It's shiny, right? And so that's sort of the idea of what Christian was. Christian isn't something that was named after, if you will, Christ, or Jesus the Christ, or Jesus of Nazareth, or the followers of, but that it was old, and that more so it reflected Samhain. This idea that any small light upon any individuals who were Christian reflected the light. And so as we Druids, or we who identify as such, must be present, must be comfortable, must be courageous, must have strength in the darkness to overcome it. In the story, the devil, we talk about the girl who or the girls who the devil as a changeling appeared as different things, right? And they refused because they knew that it was deceit, that it was lies, that it was a cult, if you will. Our job as Druids is to unravel the occult and make the occult unhidden I do that to you as I grow, as I learn. And I think that you as a person would also recognize value in that. If we think a little bit more about this idea of Samhain, about this idea of, yes, seeing something so frightening as a devil ringing a bell underneath our bed, and that just itself paints this very scary ass picture, versus the previous paragraph where he talks again about, the person on the horse, and the New York Times, the Irish Times turning into a bird and then turning into a man, and then knowing that it was not the Irish Times. I mean, that could have also been how media lies too. I mean, we don't know what Yeats was thinking, but it could have been a reflection on how mainstream media is the primary deceit. The CNN, the MSNBC, all the mainstream shows and networks, I should say, how they're basically all one. And I think that that could have been part of it, so that our Prince Charming, our media, and our fear is all tied in together. Sometimes I think it's important to realize, as a Druid, that the Druids themselves understood the solar cycles after quite some time, and also knew that the people were to inherit them. They did not inherit the people inherit the Druids, who were there prior to them, whatever part of Europe you would have been. And so, obviously, their last stand was Caledonia, but, in thinking about all of this, what were they fearing? I don't think so much the Druids feared as much, but also appreciated fear. I think we should all appreciate fear and know that we have the courage, if we have the courage and the strength and the courage that Daru, I think then we can survive Samhain and not allow it to overpower us. I spoke to a friend of mine who's a Druid. This person is, he doesn't even call himself a Druid, but this person is definitely a Druid. I would even say a wizard. I love when people come to me and ask me for questions, when people that are looking for advice from me and say, Druid in a class, can you help me out with this? And I'm like, you're way too experienced. Why do you want to know from me? I see so much potential in so many people, and also so many hurdles that these people have actually passed. What can we expect during this time of year as the leaves fall and die, as the trees slowly say, it's time for me to let go and let God? The god or gods of your understanding, the pantheon of your understanding, the kindred of your understanding, whatever it is, it is both, it is the source, it is force, and it is course. A trinity of sorts. And so as we think about these things, as we think about this idea of Samhain, we think about the idea of how important it is to understand that darkness sees us. Darkness has the power to extinguish our light. Will you let it? Will you let it? I don't think for an instant that my light will be extinguished. I don't think for an instant, for those of you that have been following me, your light will be extinguished. I don't think for those of you that continue to go to Grove, celebrate, walk, and worship with the God or gods of your understanding, your light won't be extinguished if you believe. We must believe that when we let go of those leaves on our own trees, we're saying it's time to sleep. Sleeping is a very interesting concept during Samhain as well. You know, and I'll talk about that maybe in the next Serene Sunday, but I think it's very important also to understand that this idea of sleep and letting go when everybody else is fearing around you because they cannot sleep. Those who are able to sleep when it is dark, when darkness is upon them, those who are able to sleep are in tune with the infinite. Can you see the darkness? Not can you see the light? Because if it is dark, you are the light. The only light you're looking for is yourself during this time of year. That is the meaning of the season. That is the reason for the season. Can you do that? Your Ayadal. The Ayadal that I talk about, or Ayadal, is the Druidic mantra, if you will. And the difference between a mantra and a Druidic mantra, I think that I believe, at least from the point of location, moving from east to west, especially northwest, is that the Ayadal or the Ayadal changes into not simply a statement, but a statement that you want to be the outcome through an action that you have made. In the story The Devil that we read tonight by W.B. Yeats, I don't think for an instant that, that there was no action. There was plenty of action. In 2 cases, there was refusal. But in the 3rd case, there was action. Devil's underneath the bed. He's ringing a bell. Creepy as hell. I mean, when you read this story, you're like, whoa, this is like creepy stuff. What's he do? He goes to the church, he grabs a bell, and then he comes back, rings the bell, and the devil comes out from underneath the bed, and disappears. How awesome is that, man? How awesome is this? There's nothing, these stories. A lot of people will also ask me, and they'll say, well, during the class, how do you, or how much do you believe in folklore? Well, here's my answer. It would be unwise for me to say that I believe in it literally. But it would also be unwise for me that I believe in it figuratively. I believe that in all of these stories there is truth, not simply a moral, but possibly truth that it did happen. At the very end, like I said, Yeats then goes ahead and sympathizes with the devil and says, what? Says he was just a tree spirit with cloven feet. And when you think about the feet of the tree, the roots of the tree, they look like what? They look like hooves, long hooves. So, if you will, Samhain is sort of Celtic twilight. It is a time to understand our own greatness that has been given to us by the gods. And so as we're God of your understanding, kindred, pantheon. It's not my job to tell you what to believe. But I do think that this Eadl has to be something that is strong enough to work. And here it is. I only see darkness because only darkness can see me. I only see darkness because only darkness can see me. That is your Eadl. That is your Eadl. That is it. I only see darkness because only darkness can see me. Hope you could write that down. And you're going to say that between now, and I think it is this year, December 22nd, Coordinated Universal Time, probably around 2 p.m. I'm almost sure. I don't know. Don't quote me. When we hit Yule, Alban Arthur, Christmas. And so that is your Eadl. And now your Draíocht, your magic. So what I want you to do is get into a place that's absolutely dark. This is all I want you to do. Go into a place that's absolutely dark. Bring a small candle in with you, a tea light. Okay? And what I want you to do is and really try to immerse yourself as the darkest place in your house. Shut off all the lights, shut all the blinds, everything. You could do it outside, but I would say if you did it outside, it depends on where you're at. You could do it outside on a night where there's not much wind, but this is fall. It's windy, you know. So I would also think about, if you did it outside, do it on a cloudy night. Don't do it on a night where there's lots of stars. You want it on a night where it's going to be fairly dark. Okay? Go to a place, wherever it is, inside or out, that's fairly dark. Shut off all the lights and light a candle. And all I want you to do is stare at the light and say, "That is me. That is your Draíocht." And then what I want you to do is I want you to take spit from your mouth. I want you to take some of it, put it in your fingers, and then if you spit here, I want you to rub it right across your forehead. That's all I want you to do. You got that? So what are you doing? You're going into a dark place, you're lighting a candle, you're looking at the candle, you're looking at the flame, the lit candle, and you're saying, "That is me." And you're going to take some spit, put it in your hands, and then you're going to just go across your face with it and become a Christian, as we talked about earlier in this show. For those of you who are just watching, I would recommend watching the entire show and knowing that not only are we light, but we're reflective in the darkness. Thank you, everybody. And now for your blessing. Wherever you're at, this goes beyond time and space. Wherever you're at, wherever you're at. May the God bless you. May the goddesses keep you. May the Fae shine their light upon you, and may your ancestors remain with you forever and ever, world without end. Girawen. Tasefior, Tasehifor. Be it thus, be it thus. Chigabra Sloncha Aranit. Remember that the Druid's philosophy is that it all works out. It doesn't always work out, but in most cases, it will all work out. Thank you, everybody. Good night.